Now we've been talking about individuals, but unfortunately, of course, organizations and sales managers have to deal with teams, whole groups of people that may or may not have been selected by them. And so we want to look at 6 key questions about whether your team is tough-minded enough and how to make them tougher. The first of those questions is, what is tough-mindedness? And I think you pretty much defined that.
Yeah,
Defined that at this point,
tough-mindedness.
don't you?
I mean, think about this, Rick. Over your life, which is fairly long at this point, I'm right there with you.
I was waiting for that part. Okay.
Who do you know, perhaps not by name, or describe, if you would, somebody that you would consider to be really, really tough? A tough person, tough-minded individual.
You. And I'm not just saying that because we're here and because I know, but mainly because I've known you for years, and that you get out there, you grind it out, you do what you need to do to make the business grow, to get you drive the people who work for you to be successful. Yeah, I've seen you do presentations and you push. I know the kind of schedules that you keep, where you go from this place on Monday to that place on Tuesday to that place on Wednesday on that place on Thursday. And to my way of thinking, that somebody would have to hit you over the head with a sledgehammer to knock you down. Now, I'm not doing this to blow smoke, but I think that you are the best example that I have right off the top of my head of somebody who is tough. And it sounds like I'm sucking up to you, and we're doing an infomercial, and I don't mean it like that. But you are strong, and you don't strike me as the kind of person that if you got a negative reaction to somebody you were trying to pitch for a sale, that wouldn't roll over you. You'd turn that sucker around. You'd find a way to get back at it and get back on the horse and win.
You know, and that's very kind of you to say, Rick. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I've worked very hard to be tough-minded, but I can tell you, I learned it in 4 or 5 places. I learned it from my father, who was in sales, who faced rejection and difficulty, and I'd see him be resilient. I learned it from my uncles, who were all thoroughbred horse trainers, self-employed, would lose races, and then had to go back and win the races to get some money. I learned it as a college football player and a high school football player. My high school football coach was a World War II vet, very tough guy, played for the Washington Redskins. In college, I learned it. In my fraternity, I learned it. I learned it in the military. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not so sure, if you don't have a predisposition for it, that it can be taught as much as the lessons can be gleaned and then exercised from the predisposition.
And that was the question I was going to ask you, which is, can tough-mindedness be taught?
It can be fine-tuned, but I'm not so sure it can necessarily be taught. Now, that means someone can be tougher than they would have been if they hadn't been taught. But if they don't have those values and attributes and behaviors to begin with, and the life experience that does that, you're not going to transform them. Now, what I'm suggesting to our audience, to our sales managers, especially watching this, you want to build as tough, as strong as a tough-minded team as you possibly can, because you can't win in today's competitive market with people who are not tough-minded. Now, here's one of the things I do with our sales force, and we've got 5 full-time salespeople here. When people first come to work here, they go, "I can't believe he talks to these people like this." Now, I tell them I love them and how much I appreciate what they do, and I think everybody knows that. But if there's an issue, I will bring up the issue in front of everybody. Some people say, you should never embarrass anyone in public. You don't go out of your way to do it, but if you've tried to do it privately and it doesn't seem to work, there comes a time when you have to do it. And let me be really frank with you. If that person goes in the tank, they're not tough-minded enough. They're going to go in the tank in the environment in which they work. They're going to get out there on the street, and they're really going to go into the tank.
So what does a sales manager do? Okay, the sales manager comes in. Let's say he or she has been on the job 6 months. They inherited a sales team of 5, 6, 7 people. He or she has got 3 really tough people, that, like we've been talking about. She's got a couple who are right on the fence, and she's got 2 who are just not carrying their load. What does she do? We know she's got 3 that are winners. She's got 2 that are on the fence that maybe need to be tougher. Can she toughen the people that are close but not there? And what does she do about the people who are not tough at all?
You know what's interesting about this question? Just yesterday, Kevin Reinert and I were on a seminar, a teleseminar, with this same topic. We had 15 sales managers on the phone, and we said to them, give us the number of salespeople you have, the number of superior performance of that group. So someone would say, I have 10, I have 3 superior performers. Another one
Just
say, I
the
have
question
6.
I was asking.
What you just did.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an interesting answer. And part of that is those that aren't performing, don't spend an exorbitant amount of time with them. They're going to have to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. And you're going to find out real fast if they're tough-minded enough to do that. In other words, if they can't reconcile it, come up with their own answers, work on their own solutions, figure out how to get better, it's not going to happen. Here's the other part of it. You have to be conscious as the sales manager that you're not going to spend 80% of your time with those 2 because you're throwing good time to bad. Remember the old statement, the Lord helps those that help themselves? Really peak performers, and I've said this on other webinars, they approach their job as if they own the business. So they're Rick Amy Incorporated. They take ownership, they're accountable, they're proactive. Now, if you take people like that and you spend more of your time with your peak performers and the balance with the ones that are the average ones, the other ones are just going to fall by the wayside, or they're going to get tough-minded enough to step up. But it's up to them.
But it seems to me, if I'm hearing you correctly, it seems to me then that the key is really in the hiring. And that if you...
That's it, Rick.
I mean, the point is if you don't hire, say your sales team is 5 people. If you don't hire 5 tough-minded people, you're in a world of trouble.
Yes.
Because then you've got 3 tough-minded people and 2 that are just sort of there. It's just a matter of time before those people are going to be gone. So, but the thing here's the thing that bothers me though about this. From a management leadership point of view, it seems to me that a leader and a manager still ought to be able to elevate. And we're talking about how to make your salespeople better. You ought to be able to elevate your staff to be stronger. But I'm not sure you're telling me that you can actually teach people to be tough-minded. You can teach them better sales skills.
I believe there are.
You can teach them. They can be better, and they can be more skillful. But you seem to be telling me you can't make them more tough-minded. They either are or they are not. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.